Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, a part of Wilderness Fire Productions, where we are cultivating the passion for books, audiobooks, and storytelling. Since time immemorial, we have been storytellers. Everybody's got a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. I'm your host, James, and today I am thrilled to welcome a true powerhouse of voice, storytelling, and resilience, Cheryl Holling. Cheryl is an award-winning voice actor, podcast host and producer, and the warm, authentic voice behind 19 Stories, From Fear to Hope, and The Voice Kitchen. From her early days in radio to earning multiple Sovus Awards, she has built a career around the power of the human voice and the courage it takes to share our stories. In this episode, we're talking about moving through fear, building resilience, the future of voice acting in an AI world, and even a little bit about blending great conversation with great food. Cheryl, I am so thankful that you were here, and so thank you for joining me on my show today. I'm really, really excited about this.
James, I am so delighted. To have an intro like that is truly an honor. And thank you so much. I mean, I'm going to put that on a loop. And in the morning, I'll just play that. And I'll go, that's me. I start my day like this. So
Never hurts to have words of affirmation.
no, it doesn't. And especially when they're spoken with someone with your dulcet tones. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. Now, for the listeners out there, little nugget of knowledge for you. Cheryl and I came to know each other by way of a very welcoming slice of buttermilk pie over LinkedIn. Isn't that right, Cheryl?
Yes, and that would be your buttermilk pie. You joined me. You mentioned the Voice Kitchen. You joined me in the kitchen for a delicious episode. And listeners, if you are interested in learning the recipe for this incredible buttermilk pie, then you need to go look at the Voice Kitchen for James' episode. So yes, that's how we connected.
Now, moving into questions more about you, though, a quick caveat, because I love the pie. If you haven't tried buttermilk pie, listener, highly encourage you to. Cheryl, have you tried it yet?
Yes, I have. And I got to tell you, and I should have let you know. I should have let you have known. But first of all, I like buttermilk, and I know not everybody likes buttermilk. And there's so many ways you can incorporate it and make it. But yeah, it's like, I think I mentioned when you were describing it, it's kind of like a version of a cheesecake, but with buttermilk,
Right.
So it's got the tang of cream cheese, but even more so, like that delicious sour that buttermilk has.
Right. Did you sprinkle the little hint of nutmeg on the top for that warmth?
Yes, I did. And I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Next time, I definitely, because you and I also spoke about putting nutmeg in our coffee, and I do a pumpkin spice blend in my coffee every morning.
Okay.
And every time I do, I think of you, James. So just so you know, I think of you every day, James.
Now, you've described yourself as someone who was born to talk. Can you share a bit about your early experiences in radio, performing, and how your creative family background shaped your path?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I am the youngest of three, and
Okay.
of three gals. But I know you have many children, right? What?
That I do. Four.
Four. Okay.
3 girls and 1 boy.
Okay, and where's the boy in the lineup?
He came as a 2-for-1 special. He and his
that's
twin sister.
That's right. Well, your wee one may be the same in that, I clamored for attention, and it's not like I had to really ask for it. I was the ham in the family. I literally, I think I came out of the womb speaking, because I just always wanted attention. And even, in my younger days, having grown up with my mom singing opera, my dad in the theater, I just really took it all in as far as the power of our voice, and didn't learn until later on that there's a way to finesse it and rein it in, if you will, because I was one to always get sent to the principal's office because I would be throwing my voice. I would doing characters, and it's not because, in hindsight, it wasn't really that I was making fun of people. I just realized I had a passion to learn how people speak.
Right.
and to want to emulate that for kind of a cast of characters, if you will. And plus, I grew up on Warner Brothers cartoons. I mean,
Of course.
when you have Mel Blanc as kind of your icon, if you will, you can't help but kind of take that into your world and go, wow, I'm going to really listen to people and trying to get their cadence and their way of speaking. And because we all really are characters.
Very, very true.
Yeah. So, what was the other part of your question?
Just sharing your experiences in radio performing and
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
so when I was younger, I always thought I wanted to be a singing cartoon because I loved, as I said, I loved emulating people's voices and their natural cadence, and kind of had my own little cast of characters going on. But because my mom was a opera singer and I studied classical voice, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be like a Michigan J Frog, like "Hello, my baby, hello, my," and right, and get paid to do that. Well, that hasn't happened yet. However, I took my love of speaking and love of radio, actually, and I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm looking at James. I have the luxury of being able to see James. He can't see me. Wh- You just took a swig of something from a very large vessel. How?
yes,
Is that like a gallon of
it
water?
is. It
Okay.
is a gallon of
All
water.
right. I just digress. I'm like, oh, this isn't just, that's not water. This
It's
is water.
it's a
Oh my
crocodile
God.
Dundee pun. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an old army habit of mine. Just we were told to stay hydrated, and so I do. I go through 1 gallon of water a day.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, I do as well, but I don't have it all in one place. And plus it gets your pecs built up, right? When you do it all in one. So
Sure.
so yeah, I grew up in LA where radio at the time was incredible because you had such a diversity of music to listen to, from album oriented rock to jazz to R&B to, and you had the DJs that didn't just tell you the song, they gave you the history. It's like Casey Kasem. They gave you the history of the musician and the album, and a little bit behind the makings of. And so I had a passion for radio, and I love that it was audio to me, because it was storytelling, even from from the DJs telling the history of the musicians, but also we had old time radio on one of the local stations. So I would listen to that, and I thought someday it'd be really cool to be on a radio station. And when I graduated high school, I started a junior college that happened to have a radio station, which happens to
Ah,
be one of the biggest NPR stations in the country right now. But I started on a work study grant in the office. From there, I got a board operating position, which means that I played all the reel to reel tapes. I played the live broadcast, and then I got my own music show.
very
So
cool.
that's my origins in radio.
So, what was that like being at the NPR station? Just, the whole experience, and how would you say that influenced your love for storytelling?
Well, because NPR, it was different from commercial radio that I grew up listening to, but I also did listen to public radio growing up when I was in my teens, and I have my older sister to thank for that, because she listened to a lot of different radio stations, and I would always hang out with her and either listen to the music she had, or have it on the radio. And so it influenced me because the people in public radio had a real passion, and not only with the news programs. It was, you had Morning Edition, All Things Considered. You had some of the early women in, Terry Gross was just starting out with Fresh Air, Susan Stamberg with uh, all things, not All Things Considered. I'm having a brain fart. Anyway, so yeah, it shaped my idea of storytelling, because I also went to a lot of the live events that they had, and was around people who really had a passion for the the art of audio in the first place. And again, it just tied in with what I was experiencing at home, with my mom being a singer and my dad being in the theater.
Right. That's fantastic. Now let's shift gears a little bit. You launched 19 stories at the very beginning of the pandemic, pivoting from another idea.
Hmm.
What inspired that shift?
Mm. Well, and thank you for asking. My other idea was called Thrive After 55. And about
Mm.
5 years before approaching the age of 55, and I had lost both of my parents before
Mm.
that. I lost them about 3 months apart. And my dad, up until he was 92, about 6 months before he turned 92, and then subsequently passed away, he had a show called Alive After 65, where he interviewed people in all walks of life doing amazing things at a time that society either tends to believe like you're a has been, never been, or you're just old. So,
Sure.
and he wanted to show the side of life that people, just because you reach a certain age doesn't mean that your creativity or your passion or your livelihood ends. So, um, I had thought as an homage to my dad that I would do something instead of Alive After 65, Thrive After 55. And then, the pandemic hit and I went, okay, first of all, if not now, when? But I also felt it would be a little tone deaf if I talked about thriving at a time when not just our country, but the world where it was kind of in the grips of fear.
Yeah.
And a lot of creatives, a lot of people, period, but a lot of creatives were losing their livelihoods or having to learn to pivot. And I thought we could stay in this just absolute cement of fear, or we can talk about what people are doing or have done in their careers where they have faced challenges or fearful times and what they did to move beyond that to hold on to hope. And so that's what that was born out of. It was really kind of a God wink to say, all right, now's the time. But I think the message is let's take because a lot of people were talking about COVID, and I initially did talk to
Sure.
people all around the country about what were they doing to because as you know, in our country, some areas where this is a farce and other people were really being adversely affected.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about the message of, yeah, let's address the fear, but let's not sit in it. Let's talk about what people have, the tools and or faith that people have used to move into a time of hope. So that's what
Sure.
that was birthed out of.
I love that. Now, it definitely explores stories of resilience, transformation, and moving from fear to hope. What's one guest story that has stayed with you the most from 19 stories and why?
Great question. Thank you. There have been so many, James, but I will tell you the most recent one that I've done with Matt Brown, of Matt Brown and his foundation, the Matt Brown Foundation. It was a special episode that aired during the podcast marathon that was going on a couple of months ago. Matt Brown was a young budding hockey player in Boston. It was a passion, still is a passion of his. And at the age of 15, after in the middle of playing his second varsity, because he advanced to varsity at a very young age,
Okay.
um, second varsity game, he incurred a an injury that left him a paraplegic. And he talked about, and how his whole story. He wrote a book called Line Change, and that is a book I read and talked about during his episode. But the fact that he could have been bitter, but instead he became better.
Right.
He talked about what it meant to come to grips with the end of his career just as it was getting started.
Oh, wow.
And his story is phenomenal. His story, and I just encourage, I know we're not plugging anybody on your show, but his book, Line Change, and his episode, if you want to hear, and I can't do it justice by reiterating so much of the pearls of inspiration and hope that he shared. But if any of your listeners are interesting, it is the episode with Matt Brown.
I will definitely give that a listen. Now,
And
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and the reason and why I think it's kind of self-explanatory because of the fact that he has a
Yeah.
phenomenal story and he's gone on to be an inspiration for thousands and thousands and thousands of people dealing with spinal cord injuries. And he fashioned his Matt Brown Foundation after with the idea that he wanted to be of service to people. So that's why.
Right. And I think you summed it up beautifully of how he chose to not be bitter, but instead chose to be
Mm-hmm.
better.
Yeah.
That just speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You interview a wide range of creatives, voice actors, musicians, broadcasters, authors, coaches. What common threads have you noticed in how people overcome fear and adversity?
I think much like creatives know that there's nothing. I don't feel like in any walk of life that anything's really linear. For some people, it is. Some people are very blessed from the moment they enter this world. They know what they want to do. They do it, and it's been a smooth ride for them. That's rare. I think that's very rare.
Yeah,
I think creatives in all fields realize it's non-linear, that we're going to have peaks and valleys. I know you and I have talked about that. We both have a common faith.
that we do.
And by the way, and also with you, I've been listening to a couple of, I love the fact that you end your podcast the way you do. So, and also with you, um, I think the common thread is realizing the humanity that we all share, and that there are tools, again, whether they're secular tools or they're tools of faith, that we can hold on to help us through those times, and that we cannot operate in a vacuum, and we can't,
Right.
that we need to reach out to one another. And if we're in a place where we need some help, that there are people that can come alongside us and see us through these valleys until we're no longer in them.
Correct. Because we were made to be a community. We were
Mhm.
not made
Yes.
to be isolated individuals.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, the show itself has earned multiple Sovis nominations and a win, plus other awards.
Yay.
How has the yes, yay.
Thank you. Yeah.
How ha How would you say the reception surprised or encouraged you as a solo producer?
Whew. Uh, James, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, somewhere at the beginning of this journey, I said, oh, it would be nice to win this or that. But it was never like, if accolades is all we're after, that's empty.
Correct.
That lasts only so long. And I mean, but with that, I'm incredibly honored, and it has surprised me, because there are times that I go, "D- did they have the right person? Did they really, now, granted, we enter these contests, or not, we enter these award shows with the idea that it would bring recognition. Of course, that
Right.
has been the main desire, is that people would hear more of the stories, because my interviews, yes, it's about me and my efforts, but it's bottom line, it's about my guests and their stories, like you in the Voice Kitchen, because it
Right.
wasn't just your buttermilk pie, it's your story as a human being, what you've walked through, and gathering around the kitchen table and then talking about the food. But and then same thing with 19 Stories. It's talking about my guests and their life and the pearls that they have to offer my listeners. But when receiving these awards, I will say that i- it's an incredible honor. And there are times that I feel like, am I worthy of this? Should this have gone to somebody else?
Right.
Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And actually, what comes to mind is back during my Army days, my first duty station was to Bamberg, Germany, when I was with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. And my warrant officer at the time, Chief Ryder, he came up to me because I was talking about, going after this ribbon, or, what if I got this ribbon? He stopped me, pointed his finger up at me because he's a little guy and I'm 6'4", points up at me, goes, Sergeant Cheatham, if your goal is to chase ribbons, you've missed the entire point of what it means, not only being a non-commissioned officer, but being a soldier in the United States Army. You,
Amen. Yes.
you've
Yes.
missed the point entirely. And that has stuck with me the entire time. And then you fast forward a couple months, and he invites all of us. We were all radar operators over to his house for dinner. And he pulls me aside. He goes, "Come here, Sergeant Cheatham." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Chief?" Shows me his dress blues in his closet. He has maybe like 2 rows tops of ribbons, which for an officer isn't that much. He goes, "Do you see this?" He's pointing to his ribbons. He goes, "This isn't much. What matters more is who I am as a person and what
Mhm.
I do for the collective whole of the Army. If I get a ribbon, great. That doesn't mean who I am. Who I am is what I am on the inside."
Amen. Amen. That's a beautiful example. And yet, I'm not going to lie, James. I've got my Silvis here next to me, tu- tucked in with the Women Who Podcast Award and some other things. It's nice to have. It's a nice
Yeah,
shiny object that when I'm feeling, and we have them. I don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have pod fade. Maybe you don't. But I do believe we have days that we just go, we need a little something to remind us that what we do matters.
right.
And so if anything, it's like, oh, I guess it matters. I guess, people are recognizing the work, and that's what feels good.
Right. And I'll tell you that the biggest reward that I had was not from idiosyncratic fables, but what this podcast used to be called, 3 years ago. I had labeled it something like, "You Know What I Love." And it was okay. I suffered burnout for after doing what was a great idea at the time. And then hindsight, I'm going, oof, that was a lot of work. Cheryl, I interviewed one narrator for every day of the month of June to celebrate June as audiobook month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was back in 2023. And after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do anymore. I don't want it. No.
No, that's a
Fast
lot.
forward. Yeah, it was a lot. Fast forward to April of 2024, and it was the inaugural first year of the Audiobooks at Sea cruise. My wife and I went because one, it's a cruise ship, and two, it would be a great way to celebrate early our 15-year wedding anniversary.
Mm.
On that cruise, I had just about every single narrator, that's exaggerating, but a good handful come up to me. They're like, James Cheatham, right? I'm like, uh, yeah. Like, "Hi, I'm so and so." I'm shaking hands with all these people. Like, "Yeah, we recognize you from your podcast." I'm going,
Oh, how cool.
"Oh,
How cool.
okay, cool." So that was a big thump on the head to say, "Hey, dummy, keep doing that." So,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
idiosyncratic fables was born out of that, but I wanted to change it to where the focus wasn't on me as it was in the title. You know what I love. Well, it's kind of cool, spreading, love and appreciation for all things, but the word I was still in the title, and I didn't want that. So idiosyncratic fables became known to where I wanted to emphasize stories. That was it.
And I love that you kept with it because we never know who's listening, right?
Right.
And there
Right.
are times, I've shared this before on my podcast that I heard it once that producing a podcast is like screaming into the toilet and flushing it. Because sometimes you feel like you do all this prep, all this work, and is anybody ever really listening? But what an affirmation that you're on this cruise and people are coming up and going, I love your show. I love the work you're doing. That is
Right.
wonderful.
Right. It was a good reminder that I am on the right path.
Hmm.
Now, as a versatile voice talent with demos ranging from commercial to narration, documentary, and more, what do you enjoy most about voiceover work?
When I get more of it.
Amen to that. Now,
That's where I'm at right now. When I get more of it.
now, with that being said, how would you say the industry has changed since you entered it?
Oh gosh. Um, that's so interesting because I I was on a podcast about a month ago and I got really uncomfortable because I was like,
Mm.
oh, talk about FOMO, talk about, or not FOMO, but imposter syndrome. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because she dug deep like you did. And she's like, you introduced me. She's 40 years in the business. And it's like, okay, that's true. I have been pursuing it more than 40 years. But as I mentioned earlier, it has not been linear in any way, shape, or form. So when I started out, it was there was no direct marketing, there was no pay to play. You went into the studio. If you were fortunate enough, I was a protege for a very brief time, and I won't say the person's name simply because it was so long ago and it was a whole different time. But where he literally took me from studio to studio, introduced me to the ones that were kind of the top studios in LA, who were the top producers, engineers, what have you.
Right.
And it was kind of a short lived relationship, but very fortunate to be able to do that. So you went into the studios. You didn't have any of the things that are available to us now. And you more than likely needed to be in a major market. I was in LA. So I was fortunate to be in LA. But now, of course, everybody with a microphone, for better or worse, has access to this. And when I say for better or worse, I just mean that when there's newer people coming in that may not educate themselves either on rates or on protocol, either in just the whole finesse of being like any business, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, there's so much that has changed, and in some ways, it's beautiful because you don't have to be in a major market now. You can be really anywhere in the world, as we spoke about before we started recording, and you have this available to you if this is what you want to pursue.
It's I'm reminded of a magazine that I subscribe to called Tape Op. It's more focused on the audio engineer side of things
Hmm.
and interviewing musicians and bands and such like that. And then you have, the myriad advertisements for microphones, which are always fun to look at. Different
New
recording
shiny
software.
objects, yes, yes.
But there are often articles in there written by Larry Crane or whoever, and they'll always refer back to the old analog days of taking the tape,
Mhm.
slicing it open or slicing a section off, and then recording a new section and splicing that bit back on. And then just to think about that to where we are now, just in the simple days of punch and roll in a digital audio workstation.
Mhm.
I mean, who knows where we're going to go, 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah, and that's how I grew up. That's how I was trained, is slicing tape, editing tape that way, and running the reel to reels at the station and doing the carts. And, so it was, it was, I sound like I'm dating myself, but I actually had to get an FCC license to be on the air. That doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
but you had to have a license. You had to, I didn't do the engineering license, of course, but I did the operator's license. I still have it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's from like 1979, 1980. I'm dating myself. Um, so yeah, and the thing is, it's funny when when I'm feeling antiquated or I feel like, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I have to remind myself I started out with reel to reel editing that way. I had to learn all the different incarnations of where we are today. So this is a very exciting time because again, the technology makes it available for everybody.
Right.
And so yeah, it's and magazines like that. I especially when they're talking about new gear, I tend to be a bit of a gearhead, but my pocketbook isn't, so I have to reconcile that somehow, right? Well, no,
Yep.
you can't have that treat today, Cheryl. It's
Yep.
just not in the budget. So
Yep. I'm very happy with the microphone I have. It's the Shure KSM 44 Alpha. I love everything that is all the features, all the bells and whistles. But I look at the other microphones, I'm going, ooh, my voice could sound like this with that ribbon microphone.
yes.
Or, ooh, what about the Neumann UA? No, no, I have to stop and go, nope, I am satisfied with what I have. This microphone does wonders for me.
And you know what? You just hit the nail on the head, James, because I know now look, there's been some sites that I've submitted for that I have not been accepted because they do ask about your gear.
Hmm.
And there is something to be said about the TLMs and the Sennheisers, what have you. But I think what's important, maybe something for your listeners to know who are maybe just entering this field, you find the mic that works for you.
Correct.
You because what may work for somebody else doesn't necessarily like I have a deeper voice by nature. So I have a couple of mics that bring out my midtones so I don't sound like this all the time. Oh, so I don't sound like you. So I don't sound like James. So, again, go to if you have the like a Sweetwater, well, you can't go into Sweetwater, but if a Guitar Center, or if you're at the CES convention or the NAM show, go in and play with different mics so you get an
Oh, yeah,
idea of what your voice sounds like.
exactly. Let's bring it back to your voice acting and creative life, because I think we got on a gearhead tangent. Cheryl,
Oh,
I think you and I could talk about gear on a whole different
sorry.
show if you wanted to. No, 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 you're fine. But emphasizing that you do so well with warmth, authenticity, and the voice of human intelligence, as you've said.
Mm.
In an AI-driven audio world, why do you think real human voices remain so powerful and essential?
I just heard, was it, maybe it was your podcast. I think it was your podcast. Um, for a lot of reasons. Well, let's just talk about how the human emotion is
Mm,
to emote the human emotion. I've yet to hear a machine do that in a way that you don't go, oh, that's not real. Um, but maybe it was your podcast where I heard that AI doesn't cry.
that was
Was it,
mine.
yeah, it was yours. Okay.
Yep.
AI doesn't cry, but not only that. Okay. So it's this, we could talk about gear forever. We could talk about AI forever because
Oh, golly.
there's a couple of ways to think about it. And here's where, we were talking about reel to reel and now where we're at with DAWs, digital audio workstations. We have to realize there is a whole generation that is being brought up on AI. And my thought is, okay, if there's a tornado or an earthquake just happened or a monsoon or there's really important news information, I don't care if a duck is delivering the information. I want the info. Well, I kind of do care for ducks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I want to know what the facts are. That's what I'm trying to say.
There may be a story in that duck facts.
Duck
Anyway, go
facts.
on.
Oh, I love that. Duck facts. That's the next. Okay. That's our third podcast or a second podcast.
Yes.
Um, However, now let's just say if we were talking about wars that are unfortunately going on now and something was catastrophic in your area, you want a human person to deliver that with empathy
Right.
and be sensitive to what the facts are because straight facts mean nothing if it's delivering really important information and you need someone who's going to be empathetic to what's going on a regional basis. So I think it depends. I would like to think that the younger generation coming up would, and certainly the casting directors, the producers, or the audio engineers, they may be brought up on that. But I've heard enough stories now of people losing their, some very significant clients to AI,
Mm,
but some of them coming back going, it didn't, we tried AI. Our listeners know, and it's not cutting it. Right. I don't want to hear an AI voice talk about cancer research.
no.
Right. I've got cancer in my family. I want to know that I'm hearing from a human who is telling me and reaching out to me in a very human way, not an AI. So I don't know if I answered your question, but those are some of my thoughts on AI.
No, you did. Um, and I'm reminded of a funny caricature that I think perfectly encapsulates the error of AI and how it will never fully embrace, human quality. So picture, if you will, a two-framed comic. Um, First frame, you have, the AI avatar, all, plastered smile on its face permanently, and it's answering the question, yes, you can eat this mushroom. And then
I already know where this is going.
it's very somber, very gloomy, clouds are all over the place. And instead of the person, there's the tombstone. And next to the tombstone is the the AI avatar that says, you were right. That mushroom is poisonous. Would you like more information on how this mushroom causes death?
Oh, I didn't mean to laugh. I thought you were going to talk about like a hallucinogenic mushroom.
No.
Oh my gosh. Now, if that doesn't say it right there, really, wow,
Yes.
that's profound.
Yes. So
Mm.
moving away from AI, let's go to
And
something
drugs.
and drugs.
Yeah.
Let's go to something a little bit more positive.
Okay.
Talk to us about the voice kitchen. How did the idea of blending recipes with voice talent come about?
Okay. Much in the way that, and thank you for asking that, much in the way that 19 Stories was kind of birthed as an homage to both my dad and the time that we were going through. The Voice Kitchen really came out of um, an homage to my mom and to also my elders who have passed on, and really missing the time around the table where
Mm.
stories flowed. It would may start, 10 people down by the time it got to you, it's like telephone, a completely different story. Um, but I was thinking, much like, and it was influenced by some of the TV shows, right? Coffee and what was it? Coffee and Cars with Celebrities, or comedians in cars having coffee, or whatever. That I'm totally obliterating the titles of the shows, but I just thought, you know what? We've heard these voices, but do we know the stories behind these voices? Do we
Mm.
know the person behind these voices? And I was interviewing a lot of them on 19 Stories. I thought, you know what? These are people beyond this episode that I would love to sit down and break bread and have a meal with and find out their stories beyond their careers. So let's open up a virtual kitchen. Let's talk about a recipe that means something to them. Is it a family tradition? When do you prepare it? What's the meaning behind it? Is there a history behind it? And also, because I love cooking and I have a repertoire of cooking that I'm pretty good at, and I have probably 50 wonderful cookbooks. Do I ever crack them? Rarely. So I thought, let's invite someone like a James Cheatham into the kitchen, find out about his buttermilk pie. I have a new recipe in my repertoire. And I've offered maybe a delicious offering to the listeners, to where not only they get a peek behind the voice, but they have a takeaway of a recipe that may become part of their family tradition.
I love it. Now, out of all of the episodes you've done, is there a recipe that you still hold as your absolute favorite that you featured?
Mm. I will. Gosh, everyone has come up with some beautiful ones. I will say maybe the second episode. Well, actually, it was first interviewed episode. The first episode was a solo episode where I talked about a couple of my mom's recipes. Well, one of hers and then one of mine. But the second episode I did was with Ann Lucente,
Mm.
and she shared her mom's broccoli pie. But
Interesting.
with that, she talked about her big Italian family and a cookbook that was but not available for commercial purchase, but a cookbook that her and her cousins did from all the recipes of their Italian family that they gathered from, the butter stained recipe cards, and
Oh, yeah.
the times in the kitchen with the aunt or the mom or the dad going, a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that. Well, that's great if you're Italian and you're in the kitchen, but what do you do? Like, what is a pinch? Like, do you have big fingers? And do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But she had I think it's a 6 ingredient recipe, and it's very simple. But nurturing, and you can either dress it up with a salad or have it as a meal or a side dish. And so I think, and we had so much fun on, as you and I did, but we just
Right.
had a lot of fun on that episode. So I think that's one of my favorites.
That is outstanding. Now, let's go to a little bit deeper questions here before we wrap it up.
Okay.
You highlight qualities like resilience, integrity,
Mhm.
resourcefulness, and humor as key to success. Can you share with us a time when one or more of these carried you through a tough professional moment?
Hmm. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, there's one. It's interesting, and it doesn't really have to do with my voiceover career. Well,
Hmm.
actually, in a way, it does. I was very fortunate. I worked with a woman. I met her actually that had nothing to do with entertainment. It just so happened we both worked in entertainment outside. I worked for a wilderness outfitting company that no longer exists, Adventure 16, for any of your listeners who might be familiar with it. The founders started really at the same time, really came up in the generation of the REIs, of the um, Patagonia, the North Face, all of these outdoor enthusiasts knew each other. And so uh, this group that started A16, which stood for Adventure 16 Films, because they'd go out in the wilderness and make, Adventure 16 millimeter films. So I met a woman by the name of Mindy Dacus, and we ended up being very, very, very fast friends. She was a script supervisor in for films and television. I was working in advertising, and I did part time at A16 because was after I went on a trip with Outward Bound, and I still wanted to keep my hands in rock climbing and outdoor adventures, if you will. So
Hmm.
I worked there part time in addition to working full time in advertising. And she had me audition to be the first female voice for the Writers Guild of America West award show.
Oh, wow.
And so I auditioned. I used a lot of humor during my audition because basically I auditioned for like three of the top former presidents of the guild and directors, and I was like scared out of my mind, right? What do I know?
Right, right.
Right. So, but I got it. And but out of that, it also, because they knew about my producing background in advertising, they said, "Would you like to come back next year and be our talent producer?" And that meant that I would sit down with the producers and the directors, talk about what the different award categories were, what films were up for nomination, who we could get as the presenters. And you got to understand, this was at a time, the Writers Guild Award show happens at the same time that the Producers Guild Award show happens, the Directors Guild, SAG Awards, um, Golden Globe Awards. So the competition to get talent to be your presenters is very fierce. And especially at that time, the Writers Guild Award show was not broadcast. I think it now runs on cable, but it wasn't broadcast. So I had a very challenging celebrity. I won't say her name, but very challenging. And I had to realize, okay, I could take it personally the way that I was being treated by, quote, her peeps,
Sure,
or I could find a way to circumvent it for the greater good, which was the show, if you will.
sure.
And so I did. I realized, okay, a year ago I auditioned to be the first female voice, and I used humor to navigate that. How about if I soften the blow of what's going on by using humor as well, and also realizing, look, I can take this personally and let it crush me, or I can dig deep and go, all right, this is just this is one sticky person in the midst of what was otherwise a really enjoyable just honor to, and I ended up being the talent producer for 2 years in a row. So I guess I handled it correctly and we got through it.
That's awesome. What message of hope would you like to leave with the listeners who might be facing their own fears or transitions right now?
I love that question, James. Thank you. Your voice, your project, your dreams, they matter. Your creativity, they matter. What you have to contribute to the world matters. And that sounds maybe trite because there's some really, as I don't need to tell you, some really heavy things going on right now in our world.
Oh, yeah.
But, as we learned during COVID, people tend to think that there are times that creativity and artists are disposable. And I will say au contraire. Think of who brought us through the time of COVID. We relied so much of being able to tune in to Zoom programs and listen to. I remember there was and I have it in an excerpt of it in my opening on 19 Stories. There was that wonderful John Krasinski did Some Good News, and he highlighted fantastic stories of all over the world of people doing great things during one of the darkest times in our modern history. So my message of hope is hold on to it, never
Mhm.
lose it, and please, whatever you do, don't stop offering what you have to offer because the world needs it now more than ever.
I absolutely 1000% agree with that. So, final question for you, Cheryl.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay. I promise. From your voiceover work to the podcast collaborations, or even just to share a story and or recipe, how can people best connect with you?
Feel free to email me. Well, it depends on how you want to connect. If you're interested in being a guest on 19 Stories, or if you are a voice actor and have a recipe to share, please feel free to reach out to me on thevoicekitchen@gmail.com. Or if it's regarding 19 Stories, or if you want to work together, you can CherylHolling.com. And I would imagine you have all of these links in your show notes. But maybe just if this episode resonated with you, just leave James a comment. I always believe that, as a fellow podcaster, he's putting all his energy and effort into making this happen. So maybe when you're sharing his podcast, this episode, you can write a comment and go, "Hey, enjoy the interview with Cheryl." So that would be awesome.
Cheryl, this has been such an uplifting and honest conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Oh, thank you, James. I am really, it's, as I said when you joined me, this has been delightful, and I'm very honored that you asked me, and I can take a breath now.
I mean, everything from those early radio days through the ups and downs to creating 19 stories in the voice kitchen, your passion, I got to tell you, for authentic storytelling and the power of the human voice is truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, James. And I am so glad that we connected. I'm so glad that you answered the call to join me in the kitchen.
Of course.
And I'm going to trust that this is not going to be the last of our conversations. I will make the pie again, and I'll send you pictures. So
Please do.
yeah, definitely will. And I just wish you continued good work. I'm in awe of you. You've got, 4 children. You've got a wife. You've grown potatoes, for goodness sakes, your own homegrown potatoes. And certainly for your service to our country. Thank you so very much.
No, thank you, Cheryl. And to our listeners, if Cheryl's story resonated with you, I encourage you to check out 19 Stories From Fear to Hope and The Voice Kitchen. You can find all her links, voice demos, and ways to connect in the show notes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate it, review it, subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more storytellers just like you. You can drop us a line on social media or email me directly about who you'd love to hear next, or even better, if you would like to be a guest on the show. Also, I host a Discord server where I showcase my behind-the-scenes work of audiobook narration. Click the link in the show notes because I would love to have you as a part of that community as well. And as always, dear listener, everybody has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. So until I talk to you next time, peace be with you.